Hello, everyone. Tonight we are stepping into the frostbitten shadow of a creature that refused to rest, an ancient bear whose idea of winter wasn't sleeping it off, but trudging through storms like a woolly philosopher with insomnia. Imagine the snow hissing sideways, trees cracking from the cold, and something massive moving just beyond the tree line. It doesn't stop. It doesn't dig. It doesn't even yawn. While every other animal curls into something warm and silent, you follow this bear because you're not sleeping either. And honestly, you probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing who's watching from where. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along the edge of a glacial pine wood, your breath stolen by the cold. The wind doesn't howl, it growls. That's your first clue. Wind howls over empty places. This wind is alive because the forest isn't empty, and somewhere up ahead, something massive shifts its weight in the snow. Not quietly, not sneakily, just present as if to say, I don't fear being seen. That's your second clue. The third, no cave. Not even the scratch of a hollowed tree. Just the marks of pacing oval depressions in the snow side by side like a hypnotist's pendulum. A bear clearly, but with none of the winter laziness you'd expect. No deep den, no long nap, just a path back and forth over and over. You start to feel like you're the one being watched. Modern bears are lazy geniuses. They bulk up, vanish into sleep, and skip the worst months of the year like they're fast-forwarding through commercials. But you're walking beside a version that never had that option. This bear isn't prehistoric in the comic book sense. It's not 30 feet tall or covered in spikes. It's patient, heavy-set but lean, fur matted from snowmelt, eyes like smoke-stained glass. It has the look of something that's been through it. Historians still debate whether these ancient bears had access to caves at all, or whether they simply never saw the value. What we do know is that their territories stretched into areas where the ground was frozen solid for most of the year. Good luck digging into permafrost with claws made for climbing and killing, not tunneling. And so they walked, and walked, and walked. Pacing was not just movement, it was survival. Muscle memory wrapped in fur. There's a strange rhythm to the way they circled their range, especially in winter. Some researchers call it the star path, based on fossilized trackways that loop and cross over themselves like constellations written on snow. Others say it was aimless wandering, just desperation on repeat. But as you follow the tracks, something else becomes clear. This bear isn't just moving. It's staying warm. Every movement serves a purpose. Each long stride keeps blood pumping. Each direction change keeps frostbite from settling in. Where modern bears slow their heart rates to 10 beats a minute, this one keeps its blood hot through pure willpower. You trail it for hours, and not once does it stop to rest. You begin to feel your own blood chill. This isn't just a lifestyle, it's a curse. Odd fact for you, there's a species of frog that can freeze solid and thaw itself out come spring, like some kind of amphibian popsicle Lazarus. Bears never developed that. But maybe that's the point. This bear knew the danger of stillness, and somewhere deep in its DNA, it refused to surrender its heartbeat to a season. The bear turns suddenly. You freeze. Not from cold, well okay, partially from cold, but mostly from awe. The way it stares at you isn't predatory, it's inquisitive. You realize you've been walking in its path, mimicking its pace. You've become part of its ritual, unknowingly joining an ancient loop. The bear huffs once, turns away, and continues. You've been acknowledged, not welcomed, just not dismissed. Modern documentaries might call this a primitive survival strategy, non-hibernating behavior in early Ursidae lineages. But this isn't early anything. It feels finished, final. as if this was the original bear design and we're just looking at the watered-down descendants. Today's black and brown bears all dozing through Netflix winners seem like vacationers compared to this frost-scarred nomad. You follow until your legs ache until your own pacing matches the rhythm of snowflakes hitting your coat. At some point, the line between hunter and historian blurs. You're not sure if you're tracking the bear or if it's luring you. A test. A lesson. A joke. You imagine it grumbling hibernate. In this economy, eventually the wind shifts. The bear disappears into the trees and you're left standing in the silence, your boots buried in churned snow. You bend down, run your fingers through one of its footprints. Still warm. You can almost feel the heat of its pulse beneath your skin. Not hibernating, never still, an animal that lived winter not by sleeping through it, but by staring it in the eye. And suddenly, you realize something else. This bear wasn't built for dreams. It wasn't made to skip time and wake up unchanged. It carried every second of winter on its back like a snow-swept memory. And now you do too. You wake up sore. Every joint complains. Your breath condenses in the air like you're exhaling ghosts. The bear is long gone, but the tracks remain still fresh enough to hum with heat. You walk again because there's no point stopping. And besides, something gnaws at you, a question not about where it went, but why it never stopped in the first place. Then it hits you, this bear didn't hibernate because its stomach wouldn't let it. You stumble across a frozen thicket, dry brambles rattling in the wind, and inside torn-up moss, disturbed soil, scattered beetle shells, a foraging site, recently disturbed. And then 10 paces further, the frozen carcass of a squirrel half-eaten, still staring upward like it saw the end coming in slow motion. A snack. Not much, but enough to push another mile forward. The bear wasn't hoarding food. It was scavenging winter like a miser. This wasn't laziness, it was necessity. Modern bears store fat in fall like nature's version of bulk shopping. But this ancient one, no bulging belly, no insulation plan. Just a digestive system that never switched off. Historians still debate whether these ancient bears had the enzyme profile to slow down digestion the way modern bears do. Most think they didn't, which meant they had to eat constantly even in January. You reach a frozen stream. The water isn't moving, but something scraped the ice claw marks, three-pronged pressed deep. A desperate attempt to get through. Did it succeed? Did it find fish beneath the ice? Probably not, but it tried because its body made it try. That's the cruel irony. You can be built for cold, but if your stomach says it's lunchtime, biology win. Here's an odd one. There's a species of prehistoric bear, Agriotherium, believed to have had a hypercarnivorous diet, one that relied on fast digestion and constant feeding. Some paleontologists suggest its relatives might be the root of these restless winter walkers. No sleeping, just constant scavenging, moving from carcass to carcass like a hairy, grumbling Uber Eats courier. You imagine the bear muttering, "What do you mean no delivery in blizzard conditions?" But there's more to it than hunger. You find one of its older scat piles frozen now like a gnarly fruitcake from hell, and inside bone chips, fur, even frozen insect wings. This bear ate anything. It didn't specialize. It adapted. You touch a bit of thawing fur on the edge of the pile and wonder how long it took the bear to pass it. Days, hours. Either way, it tells you what you need to know: the engine was always on. You climb a ridge where the snow gives way to shale, and from the top you can see a winding path tramped down undergrowth, broken branches, claw marks on bark. The bear was moving with intention. Not random, not lost. This was a route. A loop maybe, or a mental map of remembered food stops. Winter for this creature was a circuit, a pilgrimage, a survival route, carved not by paws, but by guts. Historians still argue about whether these ancient bears had seasonal shifts in behavior or if they remained uniformly active year-round. If the latter, it means no rest, no slowing, not even in the deep dark of polar winter. Imagine living like that. Every day a roll of the dice, find food or find frostbite. You start to wonder if hibernation, for all its cleverness, is really a gift or a curse. Your breath fogs again and the wind kicks up a smell faint but rancid. You follow it. Downhill now, knees buckling, snow giving way to something softer. Mud. No old blood. You find the remains of a caribou, picked clean, cracked bones, licked dry. But the skull is intact, untouched. You crouch and look closer. The bear didn't bother with the head. Why? Maybe it's a superstition, or maybe just too bony. But there's something eerie about it. You sit for a moment, legs throbbing, and picture the bear again, its ribs showing slightly despite its bulk. Not malnourished, just honest. You can tell a lot about an animal by how it handles scarcity. This one didn't hoard, it didn't save. It consumed only what it needed, then moved on. Efficient, brutal, noble in a weird ancient way. You realize something else too: this kind of life would never work in a warming world. Bears like this existed in an age of predictable winters. Snow meant cold. Cold meant migration. Migration meant prey slowed down. But when seasons shift, when winter becomes slush and rain and back again, well, now the game changes. And this bear, it only played by the old rules. You glance behind you. No tracks. The wind has already erased your path. You think maybe this is how the bear survives, by moving so constantly that even memory can't keep up. A creature with no still point, no home, just hunger and frost and a ticking biological clock that says, move or die. Your stomach growls and you laugh out loud. One of those tired, slightly insane laughs that bounces off the trees and vanishes before it feels real. The bear would probably be proud or annoyed. You've been trailing it long enough to think you're part of the story. But this story doesn't slow down for guests. You stand, stretch, sniff the air. Nothing now but ice and pine. Still, you get the feeling the bear is nearby, not close enough to see, but close enough to know. And just like that, your own gut nudges you forward. It's not just the cold you're trying to outwalk. It's the silence. The truth that some creatures didn't sleep through their hardships, they walked through them. Teeth clenched, breath steaming, heart racing like a war drum. You shuffle forward step by step, and somewhere far ahead, something shifts in the snow again. The sky cracks with wind and the temperature drops again. You pull your coat tighter. Though, let's be honest, if this were 10,000 years ago, you'd be wearing something furrier and a lot more dead. But the bear doesn't care about your wardrobe. It's already out there somewhere beyond the ridge, where the ice storm has begun to crawl across the landscape like a living creature. You crest the next slope and the world becomes noise. Snow punches sideways into your face. Ice grains hiss across the trees. Visibility gone. But you keep moving, mostly because stopping feels like a promise you don't want to make. And then through the chaos, you see it. The bear. It's just standing there, half its body covered in frost, the other half silhouetted against a sky that's gone from gray to metallic white. No panic, no sprint, just a tilt of its head as if it's listening to the storm rather than fearing it. Modern bears, if they were caught in this, would already be 100 feet underground dreaming of salmon and regret. But not this one. It's still awake. Here's what's weird. The ancient bear doesn't even flinch as the storm intensifies. Its fur is frozen in places, sure, but its movements are precise. It leans into the wind, eyes half closed, and then it shifts direction, not away from the storm, but toward it. Historians still debate whether ancient bears could predict ice patterns the way some birds detect air pressure shifts. But there's evidence bone beds found deep beneath wind-swept rock layers suggesting that they followed storms, not fled them, as if they were reading the wind for information. And why not? If you're constantly moving, you'd better know what the sky's up to. Guess wrong and you're a popsicle. You squint through the blowing ice, watching the bear navigate terrain that shouldn't be walkable. It doesn't slip. It doesn't hunker down. Instead, it adjusts shoulders, tight paws wide, using the ice like a bridge. It's not fighting nature, it's partnering with it. This isn't hibernation. It's choreography. You slip by the way. Face first. Utias, shwaya fatuniat. Niu, graceful. The snow tastes like bitterness and bruises, but it also gives you a new view, because from this low angle you spot the prints the bear left behind. Deep at the heel, wide at the toes, not dragging, planted, balanced, and spaced perfectly like someone who knew exactly how far their body could stretch in a blizzard. The prints zigzag slightly, but they don't waver. This was not panic, this was intention. Odd fact time, penguins? Yes, penguins use the wind to their advantage by turning their backs to storms and letting their bodies reduce heat loss. Bears, they don't get that luxury. But this ancient bear seems to do something similar, shifting its body angle to cut wind resistance like a furry battleship. As you get up with all the grace of a dropped turkey, you start to see a pattern. The bear isn't just enduring the storm, it's communicating with it. Like an old hunter reading smoke. Where you see chaos, it sees instructions. The way the trees bend the direction of frost build up, the pitch of howling wind, all of it guides its path. You follow clumsily, trying not to feel like a very cold idiot. Your breath turns to knives. The wind hums against your ears. Somewhere behind you, a tree splits under the weight of ice and crashes to the forest floor. But up ahead, the bear has found shelter. Not a cave, not even a proper overhang. Just a dip in the earth shielded by frozen bushes and an old root tangle. The bear slips beneath it like a whisper, vanishing from sight in a way no creature that size should be able to. You wait, half out of respect, half because your leg stopped cooperating. A few minutes pass, or hours. Time doesn't work properly when your face is frozen. Eventually, the storm shifts again. Just a little. Enough for you to crawl forward to the edge of the shallow shelter. And there it is, curled not to sleep but to listen. Ears twitching, eyes open, shoulders rising with the slow breaths, not dreaming, just calculating. This is not a nap. This is strategic stillness. Historians still wonder if these ancient bears had some form of sensory enhancement, vibrational detection through their paws, or heightened hearing tuned to the shifting freeze. There's no hard proof, just fragments of skulls and foot bones that seem overly thick in all the wrong places. But watching this bear now, you believe it. And then just as the wind calms, the bear stands. No hesitation, no dramatic roar, just a soft exhale, a shake of its fur, and back into the storm it goes. You think maybe it knew this was the storm's midpoint, and maybe it could tell by how the snow changed texture or the way the pressure pinched its ears. Whatever the reason, it doesn't stick around. It keeps moving. You try to follow. You really do. But now your boots are filled with ice, and your brain is doing that thing where it forgets what warmth felt like. So you sit, you wait, and you wonder what kind of creature walks into a storm just to meet it halfway. Later, could be minutes, could be centuries, you find the bear's path again. The storm has passed. The air still tense with static. In the snow, the tracks are clearer now, and something about them feels ritualistic, like writing. Like the bear was leaving a message not for others, but for itself. It makes sense. When you can't afford to stop memory lives in your footprints. And as you place your own foot beside one of its steps, same length, same depth, eerily close in size, you realize something else. This isn't just about survival. This is about control. Mastery of a season that kills everything else. The bear doesn't flee winter, it negotiates with it. You stand again, limbs aching, and feel the silence settling in after the storm. The forest is blanketed in white glassy and still. And somewhere up ahead that ancient bear walks on unchanged, unafraid, unreadable. There's a scent in the air now. Not the crisp mineral smell of ice or the pine dust of the forest. No, this is older, richer, animal, but not fresh. The kind of smell that sticks to the back of your throat and whispers, "You shouldn't be here." You follow it anyway because that's what you do now. Track the unslept. Walk where rest never lived. The terrain changes. The snow thins out under a canopy of crooked trees, their branches bowed with age and ice. You push through tangled brush until your boots strike stone flat wide with strange grooves clawed into it. Not naturally, repeatedly. You kneel and trace one with your glove. It's smooth, worn, like something massive used this slab regularly, not just as a trail, but as a station. You step over it and notice them. Not one, but several small clearings sunken in semicircular, ringed with broken bones and old moss. At first you think kill sites, but the bones aren't scattered. They're arranged, neatly, almost reverently. Skulls set beside pelvises, ribs lined up like discarded xylophones, and in the center of the nearest ring a shallow depression just wide enough for a bear to curl into. The den. But this isn't the soft, sleepy hollow you were expecting. No bedding, no fur clumps, no signs of long, slow sleep. This isn't a nest, this is ceremonial, and it smells like it. Modern bears den up in winter to sleep to birth to conserve energy, but this den doesn't whisper sleep. It echoes with something else entirely. A pause, maybe. A place of transition, not retreat. The bear you've been tracking, if it came here, it didn't come to rest. It came to change. Historians still debate whether ancient bears used dens as sleep sites at all. Some argue that certain fossils found in cave mouths suggest brief sheltering behaviors, not true hibernation. Others say these sites were only used by females during childbirth, and even then only briefly. What's emerging, though, is the idea that dens weren't places to forget the world. They were places to mark it. You notice marking on the stone. Not carvings, scratches. Deep, layered, rhythmic. As if claws raked the same path again and again over years. You run your fingers across one. It's perfectly parallel to another. This isn't idle scratching. This is a record. Like tallies, like memory. And the bones, some broken, some whole, aren't all from prey. Some are bare bones, tiny, delicate, you feel your stomach turn. A den not for sleep, but for birth and sometimes for death. You imagine it now, the bear you've been following, once small and new, wriggling against frozen soil. Eyes unopened, breath slow but stubborn. No warm nest of leaves, just this place. Bones. Cold. The ancient pulse of breath through ice. Odd fact, in some modern bear populations, newborn cubs are born hairless and nearly blind in the dead of winter while the mother slumbers. But what if the mother didn't sleep? What if she stood vigil instead, watching the snow outside, listening for wolves, scaring off scavengers, not dreaming but protecting? You find claw marks on a nearby trunk, fresh, wide, deep. The bear was here recently, maybe only hours ago. And it didn't rest. It marked. A scent post, maybe. Or something else, a signal to itself, a reminder of origin. You imagine it stepping into the ring of bones, lowering its head, sniffing the air thick with old breath and newer blood. Maybe it remembers being born here. Maybe not. But it feels something. Bears don't write poetry, but their bodies do. You crouch in the center of the hollow. The stones beneath your knees are warm, trapped heat maybe, or just your imagination reaching for comfort. You can't help but lie back just for a moment, your head where the bears might have rested. The trees creak above you. The bones don't move, but you can feel them watching. This was never meant for you. Modern hibernation is clean, scientific, hormonal. The bear's body lowers its metabolism, heart rate drops, core temperature follows suit. It's all very neat. But what if the ancient bear chose not to sleep because it couldn't afford to? What if every time it considered hibernating, it remembered this place and what it might miss? Maybe hibernation wasn't just dangerous. Maybe it was betrayal. Let the body die for a few months and who knows what returns when it wakes. You rise, slowly, gently, as if afraid to stir the memories buried under the soil. The sun's dipping now. The trees bleed long shadows across the den floor. One of them almost touches the edge of the circle of bones. You step back out and turn around to mark your exit and see a paw print beside your boot. Bigger than yours, still melting the frost, fresh. You freeze. Every cell in your body begins to shout, but not in fear, not really, in awe. The bear was here while you lay down. It watched, chose not to disturb. Or maybe it knew you wouldn't understand yet. Like a teacher waiting for the student to shut up and listen. You turn slowly. The forest is empty, but it always looks that way, doesn't it? You can feel it still nearby, pacing, breathing, carrying whatever ritual it just completed like a tattoo beneath the fur. One last look at the den before you leave. It doesn't look like much. Just stone and shadows. But now you know this wasn't a bedroom. It was a shrine, a memory bank, a place where something ancient and unsleeping came into the world, eyes closed, heart racing already halfway into the storm. You descend the slope in silence, boots sinking into older snow, soft, sunless, untouched by wind. The forest feels heavier now. Not louder, not darker, just denser, like it's watching. Or maybe just remembering. Somewhere ahead, a sound breaks the rhythm. Not a growl, not a roar, just a rustle. Faint, intermittent, rhythmic, like breathing. You follow it because that's what you do now. Follow the things that don't rest. It leads you to a clearing scraped open in the undergrowth. There, nestled awkwardly between a tree trunk and a collapsed drift, is something small, barely moving, covered in a fine layer of snow, but not frozen. A cub. At first, you think it is dead. Then one ear twitches. Not from warmth, there is none, but from irritation. As if even in infancy, it resents the cold pressing against its fur. It shifts slowly, revealing legs that are too long for its body, a belly too lean, eyes still closed, but breathing steady as thunder. This cub isn't asleep. Modern bear cubs are born mid-hibernation. They nurse in darkness in a world without sound or scent. Their only universe, the gentle rhythm of their mother's snore. But this cub, it was born to noise, born above ground, born alert. Historians still debate whether ancient bears gave birth while active. The fossil record's murky as always. But some cave sites suggest mothers may have stood guard rather than slept, even pacing with their newborns in the dead of winter. If true, that changes everything. These cubs didn't wake to spring, they were raised by winter. The cub shifts again, lifts its snout, and sniffs the air. You freeze. Not because it sees you, it doesn't, not yet, but because it's moving, standing, awkwardly, wobbly knees and trembling shoulders. It pushes against the snow with one paw and flops forward, snorting softly as it tries again and again. This isn't survival instinct. This is rehearsal. You stay low, barely breathing. Not out of fear, but reverence. You're watching something that shouldn't be possible. A creature whose blood says sleep, but whose lineage says not yet. There's a power to that kind of defiance. The mother isn't here, not now, but the area smells of her. Musk, warmth, warning. The trees are marked deep scrapes, fur caught in bark. She'll be close. She's probably watching. And you know better than to assume you're alone. Still, you can't leave. Not yet. Odd fact, polar bears are known to leave their dens with cubs still in tow, letting them walk short distances within days of birth. But those are controlled, cautious outings. This cub, it was left alone, or trusted to rise. It finally manages a full step, then another. It slips nose first into a mound of snow and snorts furiously like it's just been insulted. You smile. It's hard not to. The cub turns its head as if sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Its ears twitch again. It listens more than it looks. You think maybe this is how the ancient ones learned. Not by sight, not by cuddled instinct, but by sound. The crunch of snow, the breathing of wolves, the low vibration of the wind slapping against tree trunks. Maybe the cub was born half-deaf just to sharpen everything else. You stay long enough to watch it reach the base of a tree and collapse sides, heaving steam rising faintly from its back. It doesn't sleep, it just lies there. Resting but eyes cracking open again and again like it's afraid it'll miss something important if it blinks too long. And suddenly, you remember something strange. The ancient bear whose skull was found beside a cub's remains, both laid out beside each other, not in a den but beneath open sky. Some scientists believe it was a weather-related death. Others say it was ritualized placement. One wild theory that the mother never stopped moving and the cub followed until it couldn't. You don't know which version is true. You just know that this cub is trying. And that trying is everything. You back away slowly, retracing your steps, trying not to leave scent or sound. Somewhere nearby, the mother watches. You can feel it, not menace, not a protection even. Something more ancient, curiosity maybe, or judgment. You slip behind a fallen log and take one last look. The cub is still there, sitting now, ears pricked, facing the wind. No cries, no mewling, just a tiny puff of steam from its nose as it breathes in the cold. You think about how strange it is modern bears are praised for their sleep cycles, their ability to conserve, to survive by doing nothing. But this one, barely 2 days old, is already learning the opposite. That movement is life. That winter is not to be avoided, but mastered. And isn't that a lesson? As you walk away, you imagine the cub years from now. Larger, stronger, still pacing in circles where its ancestors once left claw marks in stone. A bear that never closed its eyes too long. A creature that dreams standing up, one paw always twitching. A being raised by frost not to fear the cold, but to hear its rhythm and match it step for step. It is the stink that finds you first. Not rot, not fear, something fouler, richer, a smell with edges, like wet leather left too long in a sunless cave if that leather was attached to a very large, very alive animal that wants you to know it was here first. You gag a little, that's fair. But you press forward anyway because the scent isn't just lingering, it's directional. A trail. You push through a curtain of pine needles and there it is, a tree so thoroughly scratched and rubbed. It looks like it's been sanded down with a chainsaw. And at its base, a fresh clump of bear fur and a puddle of urine steaming faintly against the snow. You step back, just a bit. Respectfully. This isn't a bathroom stop, it's a message board. The ancient bear isn't tracking prey, it's tracking itself. Marking its path like a breadcrumb trail of stink, not to be followed by others, but by itself. The scent is a signal, not just to say this is mine, but maybe something stranger. Remember this. Turn here next time. Modern bears mark trees too, of course, but usually during mating season or for territory disputes. This one, it's doing it in winter, when no one's mating, when no one's supposed to be awake. Historians still debate whether ancient bears had specialized scent glands or just overly active bladders. Some argue that repeated marking in cold months was about communication between individuals. Others suggest the behavior was more personal navigation through a world that turned shapeless under snow. And suddenly, you believe the latter. You follow the stink. It's not pleasant, but it's useful. You begin to notice patterns, rubbing points, spaced out evenly, all at eye level for the bear, all along a slightly curving ridgeline. A route. Not just random spots, This is a scent map, and you're walking right through it like an uninvited guest wiping their feet on someone's memory rug. The next marker is different. Less rubbed, more clawed. A younger tree deeply scored with fur stuck in the bark like someone tried to shave it using a lawn rake. There's a sound nearby, a low huff. Not close, not aggressive, just noting your presence. You freeze. You can feel it now. Not just one bear, but the sense of a root that's been used for generations. A passage of musk and memory. Odd fact, hyenas mark with paste glands and can identify each other's social status from scent alone. Bears don't do social status, but imagine if they used scent for memory like a smell-based journal. Passed here, found food here, survived here. You reach a small rise where the snow has melted into a mess of paw prints and flattened brush. A nest? No. Just a spot the bear returns to again and again. You step into the center and the air practically vibrates with stink. Old fur, fresh claw, something foul but almost comforting. Like the bear left a piece of itself behind on purpose. Not for you, for itself, like a memory carved out of weather. And then another print, not the one you've been following, this one's smaller, narrower, fresher, a different bear, a different route. But it's overlapping the same trail. You crouch down, sniff regrettably, and realize these two bears have passed through here days apart. Or hours. Maybe this is where their territories brush against each other. Maybe they know each other by scent alone. You imagine a dialogue of sorts. One bear leaves a message, the other sniffs it, decides whether to follow, or challenge, or avoid entirely. And suddenly it clicks, this isn't just territory marking, it's conversation. An ancient bear language with no vowels, just scent and geometry. You follow the overlapping trails down into a shallow ravine. The trees thin. The scent gets stranger, sharper, more desperate. There's a carcass up ahead, small, frozen solid. A rabbit, maybe, or something like it. Half-eaten. Paws, dragged through the snow. Not cleaned up, just abandoned. And all around it, trees marked heavily. Urine stains, claw marks, scat frozen into little stink totems. The bear circled this place, marked it hard, but didn't finish its meal. Why? Maybe it was full. Maybe it left it for another bear. Or maybe this was an offering, a memory, a scent monument to a lucky find in a lean season. You crouch beside the carcass. Flies won't come in this cold, but the air hums anyway. The bear's memory is still here. You've walked in snow before. You've tracked animals before. But this is different. You're not following a bear, you're reading it. Its whole life is a path written in stink and scratches. It paces its world the way a monk walks a labyrinth over and over, not to find something new, but to remember something old. And here's the kicker. Modern bears still do this. Even the sleepy ones. In the weeks before hibernation, they pace their territories obsessively. Mark trees they've marked before. Revisit old logs, not for food, for familiarity, as if they're writing one last sentence in a diary before turning the page to sleep. But this ancient bear never stopped writing. No closing line, no final mark, just open-ended loops of fur and funk across an endless page of snow. You sit for a moment beside the half-eaten rabbit, not out of hunger, just to see what the bear saw. The wind shifts. The scent hits you again. You try not to gag. And then you smile despite yourself. This is what it means to live awake through winter. To mark the world not by accident but deliberately. Every claw swipe, every scent, splush, a declaration I was here. I am still here. I will be back. You get up, keep walking. The stink trail continues weaving through frozen silence like a thread through history. Somewhere ahead, the bear is already leaving a new mark, and you're learning to read it. The trees begin to sweat. At first, you think it is just melt. Morning sun doing its thing, trickling through needles and nudging the frost into surrender. But then you notice the snow under your feet too soft, too slushy. The icicles no longer snap when touched. They droop, drip, vanish. Winter is blinking. You wipe sweat from your neck. It feels wrong, like someone whispered spring too early. The bear's trail ahead looks confused, tracks fanned out looping strangely less deliberate. It's pacing, yes, but not with confidence. It's reacting. The terrain has changed mid-season, and the bear doesn't like surprises. Historians still debate whether early bears could adapt to sudden warming events. Some think they had flexible behaviors shifting from snow-dependent habits to rain-based sheltering. Others argue they were too specialized snowwalkers in a world that was starting to forget what snow was. You watch your breath fade faster in this air, and you begin to agree with the second camp. The sky is the color of dirty pewter. Dampness clings to your clothes like a second skin. The forest feels wrong. Not warm enough to feel like spring, but no longer sharp enough to feel like winter. A weird in-between. A betrayal of the cold. And then you see it, the bear, standing under a massive spruce, its shoulders hunched not from cold but from confusion. It snorts at the wet ground, paws at the slush. This isn't the terrain it evolved for. The snow was supposed to stay longer. The cold was supposed to be reliable. Its fur is soaked at the edges. Steam rises from its back like the animal is being boiled very slowly by time itself. It stomps at a puddle, then again. Water flicks up into its face. It huffs, annoyed. You step closer, carefully. No sudden movements. No loud thoughts. The bear glances your way briefly and then returns its gaze to the trees. You watch it shake slowly and settle down in a curl beneath the trunk. Not asleep, just sheltering. Rain starts, not hard. Just constant. A thin, cold drizzle that slides down your neck and into your boots with unsettling efficiency. The bear doesn't move. It lets the water fall. But you notice something strange. It's sitting in a slight depression, shielded by rocks and logs that it must have pulled there itself. Primitive. Effective. It built this. Modern bears sometimes dig out rain shelters, but usually by accident by modifying old dens or taking advantage of natural formations. This one, it's clearly made deliberate alterations. It scooped dirt, stacked bark, even positioned pine boughs as overhead cover. A soggy, prehistoric lean-to. Odd fact, orangutans build fresh nests every night from leaves and branches, sometimes adding pillows and roofs. Maybe this bear learned from a parallel instinct. Maybe it had ancestors who figured out how to shape the world when the world refused to cooperate. You take cover under a nearby outcrop close enough to hear the bear's breathing. It's slow, frustrated, like someone forced to change a long-cherished routine. Because this isn't just weather, it's memory disruption. The bear's internal calendar says it should be stalking snowfields. But the world around it is dripping, melting, slipping into something unfamiliar. And that makes it vulnerable. You imagine it pacing last night. The scent marks confused. Rain washing away its map. Every rub tree suddenly losing its stink. A communication system erased by warm air. No messages left, no reminders, just silence and slush. The bear rises again. Water sluices off its back in curtains. It shakes, turns in a circle, and noses the pine boughs it stacked. Then oddly, it drags them away, piles them further uphill under a thicker canopy. As if it knows the shelter has to change now. The rules just changed. You think this bear doesn't hibernate because it can't rely on seasons. Its body might have been built for snow, but its mind has started rewriting scripts. Flexibility over comfort. Movement over stillness. You begin to see a pattern emerging. This bear, this lineage, didn't lose hibernation because it forgot how to sleep. It shed it like a bad habit, like a winter lie no longer worth believing. Maybe hibernation isn't the apex of adaptation. Maybe it's a risky bet. a gamble on consistency. But what if winter doesn't behave anymore? This bear isn't gambling, it's adapting. You watch it carry another branch. Sloppily, with intent, not artful, not graceful, but effective. Shelter not for dreams but for dryness. Rain hits your collarbone and slides down your spine. You resist the urge to join it under the tree. You wouldn't be welcome. Not really. This bear tolerates your presence like a ghost tolerates a draft, with weary amusement. Historians still puzzle over why some bear species thrived through glacial melt while others vanished. This moment might be the answer. Some adapted their behavior in real time. Others didn't. Those that waited for cold to return slept through their own extinction. You think about modern bears today, grizzly moms giving birth in warmer, earlier springs, cubs waking to mud and confusion. Some don't make it, others improvise. But the rhythm is broken, the memory disrupted. And in the face of that, you either move faster or don't wake up at all. The bear settles under its new shelter. Rain still falls, but it no longer flinches. The structure holds for now. It lies there, head low but eyes open. Always open. Just in case the weather changes again. Which frankly it will. You step back into the trees. Let the drizzle take you. Every step forward now feels like you're moving through a memory the world is trying to rewrite in real time. But this bear, it already rewrote itself. And somewhere behind you, water splashes gently against pine, and the sound of ancient breath keeps time with the new rain. You're soaked now. Not in that heroic, dripping explorer way, more like a soggy sandwich someone forgot in the rain. Your boots squelch. Your knees ache. And still you keep going because the bear does. Not with urgency, not with panic, just a heavy, deliberate rhythm like it's rehearsing something older than instinct. Ahead, the land dips. The trees get sparse, wind-whipped skeletal. You see the telltale marks, claw tracks etched into bark urine, soaked into thawing roots, the occasional broken-off branch marking a turn. The bear passed through recently, but the ground here isn't made for silence. It squelches. And lying in one thick patch of mud, you stop cold. A body, small. Too small for a full-grown bear, mummified by frost and thaw cycles. At first you think it's a cub. Then you notice the wear on the teeth, an older juvenile maybe. Still young, but not newborn. And not alive. The body's frozen mid-motion, almost curled. No signs of injury. Just still. The trees around it tell a story. Scarred, low-rubbed bear at shoulder height. A den once stood here. Makeshift. Hastily assembled. And it failed. This one tried to sleep. Modern bear cubs can survive hibernation because they piggyback on their mother's system. She slows the world for them. But this bear either left alone or left too early. The evidence says it bedded down, made a choice to stop. And that choice ended here. You crouch, breath fogging as you take it in. The mud around the body is churned. Not by it, by others. Scavengers. Something picked at the corpse. Teeth marks small, canids maybe. Or birds, opportunists, and that's when you get it. Hibernation wasn't a luxury for this lineage. It was a liability. Historians still debate why certain ancient bears avoided deep hibernation entirely. Some think their high muscle density made metabolic slowdown dangerous. Too much pressure on internal organs. Others argue it was behavioral. Too many risks in staying still in ecosystems with predators or unstable temperatures. What's certain is this sleep meant vulnerability. You take a deep breath. The cold air cuts less now, but it's still real. You look around and realize how open this area is. No protection, no overhang. If the bear slept here, it was exposed. Easy pickings, and exposure in prehistoric times was an invitation. Odd fact, there's a species of modern bat that wakes up every 15 minutes during hibernation just to make sure it hasn't frozen to death. Bears might be larger, but the risk remains, especially in ancient, less stable climates. A temperature spike den collapses. A scent trail draws scavengers. A curious predator. Dinner. You imagine the young bear curling into the mud, its pulse slowing, its breath thinning, and the world continuing on without it. You wonder if its mother returned, if she sniffed the body, if she left scent nearby grief-stained and hopeless. You step around the body, not out of fear, out of respect. The trail picks up again on the other side, and this time it's different. The prints are heavier, deeper. The pacing has tightened, no more wandering loops. Just tight, efficient circles. You follow. Eventually, you find a stone outcrop darkened with moisture and claw marks. Shelter. The bear huddled here, didn't sleep, just waited. And near the back of the overhang, half buried in wet leaves, you find scat. Fresh. Full of fur and crushed bone. The bear didn't slow. It fed. Even in the wet, even after the loss. This was not mourning, this was necessity. You begin to understand the rhythm. The ancient bear had to move because sleep meant silence, and silence meant being found. Even the slightest whimper from a resting cub was enough to attract attention. Bears don't dream loudly, but the world around them listens with hungry ears. You remember stories of prehistoric cave hyenas, pack hunters that could smell warmth through snow that would wait days for a den to unfreeze just enough to strike. Sleeping bears like leftovers thawing in a microwave. An invitation. This lineage couldn't risk that, so instead they walked. Pushed through hunger, built lean shelters, never fully slept. Maybe the closest they came was standing still behind a windbreak, eyes half-lidded, ears twitching. That's not rest, that's survival cosplay. You find another marker tree, scratched to shreds. Deep gouges, angled differently than the rest. A message not of territory but warning. This isn't mine. This is don't stop here. You press your hand to the bark. It's sticky, recent. The bear passed through less than an hour ago, maybe less. You look around, every part of your body on alert now. The rain has stopped, the air hangs, and suddenly the silence feels dense, like the world paused not for peace but in fear. Then off to your right, a sound quick slicing soft. Wings. You turn just in time to see a scavenger take off from the edge of the clearing. A giant owl. Huge, silent, leaving. And now you know. Even now when the bear isn't sleeping, it's being watched. Hibernation, you realize, only works in systems that support stillness, where the world agrees to pause with you. But in ancient forests like this, the world never paused. The predators stayed up. The cold lied. The scent of blood never froze completely. So the bear kept walking. You look once more at the young body just visible through the trees behind you. Not a failed life, a cautionary tale. A warning written in silence and slush. Then you keep moving. The trail ahead looks solid again. Pacing strong. No signs of hesitation. You feel it in your bones. The bear didn't rest. It adapted. And in this world, that was everything. The trail begins to wind uphill, now slow and deliberate through pines so tall they seem to lean in and listen. The temperature dips again, not dramatically, just enough to remind you that winter isn't gone, just waiting. You walk with care, boots crunching on a thin crust of ice that cracks with each step like old bones underfoot. And that's when you hear it, a low, rhythmic sound. Not speech, not breath, not wind. Snoring. You freeze mid-step. Every part of you listens. It's not the long, lazy snore of a creature drifting through dreams. It's broken, uneven, something like a sigh stitched to a growl. You follow the sound. Ahead, half shrouded in frost-dusted brush, is a clearing, and at the center of it, towering and still, the bear. It's not lying down. It's not curled into a warm den or pressed against the earth. It's standing, motionless, eyes closed, snoring. You step closer, 1 foot at a time. Every instinct tells you not to, but curiosity trumps fear because this whatever it is isn't sleep. The bear sways slightly. Forward, back. Its weight shifts from foot to foot like an ancient metronome. You hear it breathe. Not slow, not restful, just consistent, alive. And you suddenly understand this bear is resting its body but not shutting down. Historians still debate whether ancient bears used micro-rest instead of true hibernation. Brief states of half-sleep where muscle tension never fully relaxed, and the brain remained partially alert. Some skeletal remains suggest worn joints even in younger individuals. Overused, overworked, from pacing, from sleeping standing up. Odd fact horses can sleep while standing thanks to a stay apparatus in their legs, but they only dream when lying down. Maybe bears never bothered with the dream part. Maybe dreams were a liability in a forest where every sound could mean danger. You circle the edge of the clearing, keeping your distance. The bear remains still. Its massive head droops occasionally, but never for long. And every few minutes it snorts, as if reminding itself still here, still up. Keep breathing. You sit behind a moss-covered boulder and watch. The forest holds its breath with you. Snow flutters from the trees like lost feathers. The air smells of bark salt and something older fatigue. Not just the bear's, yours too. You've been walking for hours, days. The line between today and still going has blurred. You try to imagine what the bear sees behind its eyes. Does it visualize snowdrifts? Prey trails? Does it replay the day in scent and rhythm? Or is there nothing, just the soft pulse of survival beating endlessly through bone and muscle? It snorts again, shifts slightly, one claw flexes, a paw lifts, settles back down without taking a step. Still no collapse, no giving in. This bear doesn't rest because it can't. Every second of stillness comes with risk. You remember the juvenile you saw earlier? Curled up, dreaming its last dream. And you wonder if that bear tried this standing rest. Maybe it wasn't strong enough. Maybe it wanted the full sleep. Maybe it trusted too soon. But this one remembers. It's not just awake, it's trained. Muscle memory hardened over generations. Born from a lineage that learned sleep was not safety, it was invitation. A branch cracks to the north. The bear's eyes snap open. No hesitation, no confusion, just immediate awareness. It inhales deeply, lifts its head, rotates slowly toward the sound. You follow its gaze. Nothing, just shifting trees. But it doesn't relax, not now, not again. And now you understand the rhythm. Rest was never rest. It was recovery stolen in fragments. You see it step forward now, slow and smooth. Not groggy, not stretching, just re-engaged. It sniffs the air, ears angled forward, and then it moves back into the trees, the motion so seamless you'd miss it if you blinked. You rise, muscles groaning. You've been still too long. You feel it now, how sleep pulls at you like gravity. But out here in the rhythm of unslept things, stillness feels like surrender. You follow. Of course you do. The tracks now are fresher, firmer, tighter. Like the bear has woken from something that wasn't quite sleep and returned to its ritual walk. Mark, sniff, listen. You try to match its pace. For a while you do. And then something strange happens. You catch yourself breathing in rhythm with the trail. Step inhale. Step exhale. Your muscles move more deliberately. Your eyes scan instinctively. You feel awake but not anxious. Alert but calm. Like your body has slipped into a state of ancient rehearsal. And you realize the bear isn't just surviving, it's teaching. Teaching the forest how to hold still without dying. Teaching its body how to pause without collapsing. Teaching you how to move through a world that never agreed to rest. Historians still haven't figured out what finally drove this behavior extinct. Some say climate change leveled the field, made sleep viable again. Others blame competition with species that did hibernate who returned to spring fatter, faster, more efficient. But part of you suspects it wasn't extinction, just quiet memory. You reach another clearing, but this one's empty. The tracks veer off left, but in the center of the snow you find shallow grooves, 4 of them, parallel. deep. The bear slept here, briefly. Standing up, you reach out and press your hand into one of the grooves. It's still faintly warm. You close your eyes and try to listen to the breath, the heartbeat, the ever-fading echo of an animal who never learned to let go of winter. And when you open them again, the trail continues. Not waiting, never waiting. You smell sulfur before you see the color change. Not the sharp man-made stink of matches, but the deep earthen breath of something older. Something boiling beneath the surface. The snow here isn't white anymore. It's yellowed, cracked in patches, dotted with ash. And through it all, bear tracks widened, distorted by heat, but still undeniably fresh. The land is shifted. No more spruce or pine. Just warped wind-stunted shrubs clinging to fractured soil. Steam seeps from hidden vents, and every step forward feels like walking on the back of something dreaming just beneath your boots. The bear walked this way on purpose. You descend into a shallow basin where the snow has all but vanished. The rocks here are slick with melt and soot. Pools bubble near the edges, their surfaces trembling like anxious breath. And you see it, another paw print burned into a patch of damp ash. A clear heel, a splayed pad. The bear was here. But why? Volcanoes weren't rare in the ancient world. Some erupted violently. Others simmered for decades. And according to scattered fossil finds, some animals didn't run from them. They migrated to them. You crouch, run your fingers along the warm rock, and realize something wild. This wasn't a place of danger. Not to the bear. This was a haven. Historians still debate whether ancient megafauna used geothermal areas as seasonal refuges. Some call it speculative nonsense. Others point to trackways, mineral staining in bone samples, and strangely localized fossil beds like creatures huddled in the warmth year after year. And you're looking at the proof right now. The bear came here to survive. The heat from the earth kept the air moving, the ground thawed the scent trails active. More importantly, it kept the bear's metabolism high. Where snow stilled other creatures, this place recharged them. Odd fact, reindeer today still seek out geothermal spots to rest in Icelandic winter storms. Proof that warmth from below can be just as crucial as shelter from above. You step forward and feel your boot sink slightly. The soil here isn't soil, it's soft, rich, pulsing with warmth, and in the middle of it a scatter of fish bones, charred, cracked, picked clean. You stare. Fish. In winter. The bear didn't just come here for shelter, it came for food. The hot springs must lead to melt-fed streams where fish gather year-round, confused by the heat. You follow the bones and find a narrow channel of water slicing through the black rock. Steam coils from it thick and greasy. And there claw marks. Deep scrapes into the big salt edge. The bear fished here. It used the volcano. You imagine it standing still in the mist, eyes narrowed, paw hovering above the water. A statue in the sulfur. A monster with the patience of stone. And here's the kicker. It left no den, no trace of bedding, no evidence of sleep, because the warmth replaced sleep. The warmth tricked the body into recovery without full hibernation. It let the bear walk slower, breathe deeper, eat easier, but never surrender to stillness. You find more signs: fur caught on a jagged rock, droppings buried under a crust of blackened moss, a patch of earth pawed at with force. It all points to one truth: the bear didn't stumble onto this place. It returned here, like a ritual, which raises the question, how did it know? The same way it knew the wind, the same way it walked through storms. The bear didn't follow memory the way we do. It didn't recall facts, it felt them. Instinct, like gravity. And this place, this warm, reeking, ash-laced basin was sacred to that instinct. Not just survival, transformation. You sit on a boulder near the edge of the pool, careful not to touch the water. It bubbles like soup. The bear's tracks lead out up the far side of the basin where the earth begins to frost again. And suddenly you get it, the bear whispered to volcanoes. Not literally. Of course, you're not writing a children's book. But it engaged with the earth. It treated fire as a partner, not a threat. While others fled the heat, it studied it, used it, made it part of its seasonal rhythm. This wasn't instinct alone, it was knowledge. And you wonder how long it lasted. How many winters it returned to this basin. How many young were shown the way, taught to walk this route, not through memory but muscle. You glance back at the bubbling stream and picture generations of bears dipping paws into its warmth, feeling their joints loosen, their hunger slow. A break from pacing, not stillness, but relief. Historians still argue whether such behavior was truly passed down or if each bear discovered the volcano for itself. But as you look at the deliberate pacing trail, the deeply worn fish-fishing rock, and the orderly waybones were left behind, you know this place wasn't stumbled into, it was remembered. Not with maps, not with language, with bodies. You rise, and the steam parts just enough for a gust of wind to cut through sharp, cold wild. The outside world calls. The warmth won't last forever, but the bear is already gone. Climbed the slope, stepped back into frost and shadow. It used what it needed and moved on. You follow? As you ascend the blackened hill, snow begins to fall again. Light this time almost embarrassed. The world starts to return to its usual cold rhythms. But beneath it all, you feel the memory of heat, of ash, of a place where sleep wasn't required because the earth offered another way to endure. And above you, somewhere in the shifting woods, the bear continues. Not slower, not faster, just steady. Because for creatures like it, those who walked with fire, winter was never something to sleep through. It was something to walk with. You follow the trail as it weaves back into the cold, your boots crunching over newly frosted soil that just hours ago steamed with volcanic breath. It's colder here, not bitter, not dangerous, but dry crisp. The kind of cold that makes your nose sting and your thoughts sharpen. And then, from the edge of your vision, a shimmer mist rising from somewhere low. Water. You pick your way through a gully slippery with frost-kissed moss and hear it before you see it. The soft gurgle of moving current, unnatural in this still world. You step through a veil of trees and freeze. A stream cuts through the clearing, narrow, slow but steaming faintly in the cold. The banks are worn smooth, the rocks bare of moss. And clustered in the shallows, silvery shapes dart and hover. Fish in winter. They aren't huge, but they're alive. And that alone is enough to make you stop and stare. This shouldn't exist. This stream should be locked under ice like everything else. But geothermal heat from deeper underground has kept it awake, just like the bear. You crouch at the edge and feel the warmth rising from the water. It fogs your glasses, warms your gloved fingers. You glance left and there they are, deep claw marks gouged into a riverside log. Not decorative, not dramatic, just practical, gripping leverage. The bear fished here. You follow the prints, deep indents on the muddy bank, sharp toe impressions where the claws pushed off. This wasn't a casual visit. This was a feeding site, and a good one judging by the number of fish bones tucked into the snow nearby. You pick one up, cracked clean, bitten with precision. Historians still argue whether ancient bears were opportunists or specialists in winter. Did they rely entirely on chance? Or did they know where to find warmth-fed food when the rest of the world shut down? You stare at the stream, at the fish darting like whispered secrets in the shallow warmth. And the answer seems obvious. This wasn't luck. This was memory passed through paw steps, worn into muscle, passed down not in song or story, but in action. Odd fact, modern brown bears in Russia have been recorded visiting specific rivers in late fall and early winter, places where warm groundwater seeps up and fish linger longer. The behavior isn't universal, it's taught. One bear learns, others follow. You feel it here too. This stream wasn't just nourishment, it was ritual. A break in the silence of frost. A reminder that not everything dies when the cold comes. The bear's prints continue along the stream, then veer slightly up toward a raised ridge where a rock shelf overlooks the water. You climb it, breath sharp in your throat. And from up top you see it clearly. The stream coils like a question mark below its mist curling into the trees. From here, the bear could watch, could rest, could wait, but not sleep. There's evidence here, too, a bed of flattened leaves dusted with snow, claw marks around the perimeter, a half-dug scrape in the dirt. Not a den, a stakeout. You imagine the bear crouched here nose low watching the fish for hours, not with hunger alone, but calculation. This was strategy, not instinct, a creature that refused to be ruled by winter silence using heat timing and patience like tools. And for a moment you feel a strange sadness, because you realize the bear isn't just surviving, it's doing it alone. The warmth here is fleeting. The fish will move on, the water will freeze eventually, and when it does, there is no den to return to, no long nap waiting, just more walking, more pacing, more tracks in snow. You sit. The stream murmurs below like a sleepy voice trying to stay awake. You close your eyes and listen. In that moment, you understand something deeper. The bear's body doesn't just resist sleep, it resists forgetting. Because sleep isn't just rest, it's release. It's letting go of pain, hunger, effort. But this bear, it carries everything. Every failed fish strike, every warming storm, every pacing night. Because if it sleeps, it might not remember how to walk again. And that is not a risk it takes. Modern bears you think are lucky. They get to forget winter, wake up lighter, reborn. This bear never gets reborn. It just endures, again and again, and somehow that feels braver. You rise. The wind shifts, carrying the sulfur memory of the hot spring behind you, blending with the cold scent of pine. The trail ahead grows fainter now, less pacing, more direct movement, as if the bear has found what it needed and is ready to move again. And yet you linger. The fish below keep swimming, unaware of the rhythm they're part of. You think about the bear stepping into that stream, the sound of water on fur, the sudden explosion of motion as it strikes. Not savage, just necessary and efficient. Historians still puzzle over how bears manage to maintain muscle through long winters without hibernation. And here's your answer. They didn't pause long enough to lose it. The stream bubbles on, the air chills, and finally you turn. You climb back down, your breath fogging once more, the silence around you pressing close. The bear is somewhere ahead, already beyond this place. It came. It fished. It moved on. Not because it was finished, but because staying is just another kind of sleeping. And this bear, this lineage, never stays too long. The snow returns slow and floating, like it's forgotten how to fall properly. The air smells clean again. Pine wind and the faintest trace of old smoke, maybe from some ancient, lightning-scorched tree, or maybe just the memory of the volcano still clinging to your coat. You're higher up now. The terrain's rockier, the trees lean against the wind like old sailors mid-step. The bear's trail is still there, faint now, lighter, but more precise, less wandering, more purpose. And you see something odd. The tracks curve against the wind, uphill, exposed. It doesn't make sense. Bears conserve energy. Even the stubborn ones, but this one, it seems to be moving into harder ground, riskier terrain. You follow it into the rising slope, weaving between bare rocks and stunted shrubs, until you spot something that stops you. A flat stone ledge perched above the valley below, dusted in fresh snow. And standing right there, half hidden in the shadows of a bent pine, is the bear. It doesn't move. At first you think it hasn't noticed you, but then its head turns. Not fast, not startled, just slow, deliberate. And in that moment, something strange happens. The bear vanishes, not physically. It's still there. But in the moonlight now, breaking through the thinning clouds, it becomes nearly invisible. Snow clings to its back. Its fur pattern, mottled, broken, dusky, perfectly mimics the rocks and shadows. You lose sight of it even while looking directly at it. You blink. There, then not there. A ghost in its own home. Historians still debate whether some ancient bears evolved winter camouflage. It's a controversial idea. Most say fur color didn't shift enough for true concealment, but some argue behavior matters more than biology, that bears used the light, chose their angles, worked with the snow like a painter choosing the right shade of gray. And what you're seeing now, that's no accident. The bear doesn't crouch, doesn't hide. It simply stands in the right place facing the wind, letting the fractured moonlight break across its back in lines. It becomes part of the slope, and you realize this bear is nocturnal, not by nature but by necessity. Odd fact, brown bears are typically crepuscular, most active at dawn and dusk. But in regions with extreme daylight or heat, they can become entirely nocturnal, adjusting their habits to light and temperature. It's not hard-coded, it's pragmatic. This bear chose the moon because daytime makes it visible, because night hides its breath, because predators and prey alike see less when the world is lit only by silver and silence. And now you're watching it move. Not fast, just enough. Every step is measured. A careful placement between rocks, a pivot behind a bush. It's not trying to sneak, it's trying to not exist. And it's working. You track from a distance. You have to. There's no catching up now. It's ahead in ways you can't count. You watch the way it uses shadows like ledges slipping behind shapes without changing speed. Even its breathing is timed with wind gusts vanishing into noise. This bear has learned to trick the moonlight. It walks where light can't reach. It stops where snow reflects least. It becomes invisible, not through magic, but through ancient, hard-earned practice. And that's the moment you understand this isn't a fear response. It's a predator's technique. Not all prey hibernates. Some stay awake. Some linger near geothermal springs, just like the fish. Rodents, weasels, foxes, small things that think the cold protects them. But this bear, it walks the cold like a silent storm. It doesn't chase, it appears. You stumble slightly on a loose stone and the sound cracks the quiet. The bear halts, not frozen, just alert. Its head lifts, it listens, not with panic, with assessment. Then it turns, vanishes behind a rock wall, and leaves nothing behind but a swirl of snow that quickly settles. You exhale finally. There are animals that thrive by speed, by brute force, by overwhelming their world with sound and motion. This bear survives by almost being real. Its existence is reduced, distilled, whispered into the night through half-tracks and cold breath. No territory claims, no unnecessary sounds, just enough movement to survive, just enough silence to disappear. And you realize something darker. The bear that cannot sleep must adapt in other ways. It must hide better, hunt smarter, rest without resting. And when winter makes everything visible, every paw print, every breath cloud, then the only true defense is to not be there at all. Historians still argue whether behavioral stealth like this counts as evolution. But behavior is adaptation. The bear changed itself not through genes but through choices, and those choices became legacy. You sit for a while on the ledge. The moon climbs higher. The snow picks up again, fine and dry now, whispering across the stones like static. You try to see where the bear went, but your eyes betray you. Every shadow could be fur. Every rock could be a back, a shoulder, a tail. And isn't that the point? This isn't camouflage in the flashy sense. No chameleon tricks, no polar white fur, just a deep, deliberate blending. A decision to be missed. You get up. Stretch your legs. You're tired, but you don't want to sleep either. Not now. Not after seeing that. You begin to understand what kind of creature stays awake all winter and still lives. It's not just tough, it's clever. And somewhere ahead, hidden between the cracks of moonlight and snow, the bear is already walking. Not waiting for spring, not hoping for dreams. Just continuing. Just surviving. Just vanishing one careful step at a time. Snow fills your footprints faster now. You look back and see only the vague impression of your presence, like the forest has started to erase you on purpose. The bear's tracks ahead do the same. Each step you take sinks a little too easily. Each trace of its passing softens within moments. But you keep walking. Because something has changed in the air. Not just the cold, the stillness, it's heavier. More final. Like a curtain slowly lowering on an ancient play no one's watched in centuries. You find the next print by luck more than skill. It's not alone. There are two sets now. One large, one smaller. At first you think mother and cub. A reunion, maybe. A rare moment of closeness in a life of distance. But then you look closer. The smaller tracks are the same bears. From hours ago. Days, maybe. A loop. It came back. You follow both sets up a shallow slope where the wind has carved tunnels through the snow. At the top, the trees open into a small hollow, sheltered, quiet. Even the wind forgets to breathe here. And in the center, half covered by snowfall, lies a shape. You stop. It's the bear. Lying down. Still. No pacing marks. No disturbed earth. No clawed trees. Just silence. And snow drifting gently over its back. You approach slowly. Half in hope, half in reverence. But the bear doesn't move. You kneel beside it and see the truth. There's no breath, no twitch, no stir in the snow. The bear is gone. Not wounded, not starved, just still. And around it, a shallow ring in the snow. A depression where it must have turned in slow circles one final pacing loop before lying down for good. It chose this. Not like the cub, not like the sick ones who failed to outrun the cold. This bear came here to sleep. Historians still debate whether some ancient bears finally gave into hibernation as climates changed. A gradual shift. A learned behavior. One generation after another slowing more, dreaming longer until stillness became survival. But for this bear, it wasn't learned. It was surrendered. Odd fact, certain reptiles can enter a state called brumation, like hibernation, but looser. Less defined. Less sleep. Some bears may have once done something similar, partial shutdowns, micro-winters. But this is full sleep. And final. You brush snow from its muzzle. The fur beneath is clean, coarse, still warm just slightly. But the body beneath has stopped pacing. The engine is off. And it hits you harder than expected. Because you've followed this creature for what feels like weeks. You've mirrored its steps, shared its shelter, read its scent like scripture. And now here it lies, not defeated, not hunted, just done. And something deeper creeps in. Did it mean to wake up? Or did it finally gamble? Did its body, tired of walking, decide to try the old trick of shutting down just once, just to see if spring would still be there when it opened its eyes? You sit beside it for a long time. The snowfall thickens. The wind picks up again. The forest begins to close the door. The bear's tracks led here like lines on a page. And now they stop. No next step, no new mark. And maybe that's the most ancient story of all. The one where the creature who always walked finally rested and never stood again. You look up at the trees, tall and silent, and wonder how many other bears ended like this. Quiet, curled, invisible beneath centuries of snow. Maybe that's where the idea of hibernation truly began, not in survival, but in defeat repurposed. Stillness became strategy. Because eventually even the strongest body grows tired. And in that exhaustion, something new was born. The modern bear, your sleepy brown cousin full of fish and belly fat, dreaming through the hard months like a master of efficiency, owes its silence to this moment, to this bear, to this end. The one who tried walking forever. And then one day simply stopped. You touch its flank gently. The snow muffles everything. You whisper your thanks, not aloud, but in your breath. You turn to go. The trail behind you is gone now. Erased. And for the first time, you don't try to find it again. You walk without looking back deeper into the trees. Because some stories end not with a roar or a chase, but with one last deep inhale, and the peace that finally came after. The trees seem older now. Not taller, not broader, just more aware. As if the bark itself remembers something. You walk slowly listening, not to find the bear anymore, but to hear what lingers. There's no fresh trail, no paw prints, but somehow the bear is still here. You step over a patch of churned snow, shallow and strange. At first it looks like nothing, just a weather pattern, wind playing tricks. But then you realize this was a pacing loop, long since faded. You can just make out the depression of wide steps circling over and over, a memory stamped into the ground. Historians still debate whether modern bears retain behavioral echoes of their ancient ancestors, those that never hibernated. Some mythologists suggest pre-denning rituals in today's bears are more than just nesting behavior. The pacing, the restlessness, the repeated visits to old sites. These are not random, they're rehearsals. And suddenly you're surrounded by them. Circles, tracks, trees rubbed raw just below the snow line. Stones turned over where paws once pressed, like the bear's last breath stretched out across the landscape. Or maybe these are from others, modern bears still walking in old patterns, unconsciously mimicking those who never slept. You sit on a mossy root and listen. The forest doesn't speak, but it breathes. Soft gusts move through the canopy. Branches creak in rhythms that sound eerily like footsteps. And from time to time, a breeze carries with it the faintest smell of bear musky distant imagined. Odd fact, bears often return to the same den sites year after year, even decades later. But sometimes they revisit places and don't den. They sniff, they paw, then they leave. Like someone walking into a childhood bedroom and remembering without understanding why. You think about all the bears alive today. Big, lumbering, shaggy animals that spend half the year dreaming. What haunts their dreams? Do they see snowfields and volcanic springs? Do they feel the pull to move in winter? Is that why they toss in their dens? Why they rise too early some years and wander out into the frost groggy and confused? Maybe sleep is a habit they haven't fully committed to. Maybe part of them still believes winter should be walked through. You rise again and follow a new trail, not a bear's this time. A narrow footpath, likely human, but old, grown over. And yet your steps fall into it as if guided. Ahead you find another tree, its bark stripped in wide swaths. Not recent, but not ancient either. The sap hardened long ago. No fresh scent, but the marks match the height, the angle. You've seen this signature before. A modern bear stood here. Maybe last year, maybe 5 years ago. It didn't sleep nearby, there's no den. But it stopped here, pressed its scent, maybe even paced a little, remembering something its body didn't understand. A shadow of habit. You reach out and touch the tree. Rough, splintered, but underneath smooth polished where fur passed again and again. You picture the scene. A snowstorm rising. A bear trudging through the flakes. Not looking for sleep, just checking. Repeating a path, testing an instinct. And then moving on. That's the thing with memory. It doesn't have to be conscious to shape you. Historians can't agree on how deep instinct runs. Whether it's just chemical sequences and nervous systems or something more. Something learned and passed along not just through genes, but through landscape. And this forest, this valley, this range of rocks, rivers, hot springs, and shelter, it is full of memory. Not your kind, not stories or writing, but tracks, loops, behaviors that rise up again and again like seasonal ghosts. You follow the path a while longer. There's no destination, just the echo of one. At one point you find a half-eaten log bark, shredded grubs picked out. A clean snack. You can almost see the bear crouched here, big paws holding the wood, eyes scanning the trees. Was it a modern bear or one of the old ones still walking through a world that had already begun to forget it? You don't know. And somehow that's the point. You turn back slowly, not because the story ends here, but because you realize it never really ended at all. The bear may be gone, but the rhythm remains, paced into trees, sunk into snow, alive somehow in every restless step taken before sleep. The wind picks up again, not harsh, not cold, just constant, like it's trying to brush away everything, your footprints, your scent, the ending you're supposed to feel coming. But you've been walking too long to expect clean endings now. You follow no trail. Not anymore. Just instinct. You're not hunting the bear. You're walking with it, its memory now pulsing at your side like a second heart. Every step forward feels like a reply to something ancient. And somewhere behind you, the forest covers your tracks gentle and final. Ahead, the trees thin out. The land opens into a wide stretch of snow-slick stone. High cliffs rise to your left, a broken ridge curls to your right, and in the middle flat, wind-swept ground, no shelter, no cover, just a view. You step forward and pause. There's no sound here. Even the wind seems to hush itself as it crosses the open ground. Then in the distance, something moves. At first, you think it's a trick of the light, but then it shifts again, a shape, too tall to be a fox, too solid to be a shadow. It moves like it remembers weight, a bear, or the last ghost of one. You don't call out, you don't chase, you just stand there and watch it walk. One slow step at a time, a silhouette in the snow. And then without fuss, it vanishes behind a curve of rock. You blink, and the world is still again. The bear is gone, but not in the way things are lost. More in the way old songs end fading but still humming somewhere beneath the silence. You turn in place, slow eyes soft, letting the air wrap around you like the breath of something enormous and invisible. This land doesn't need monuments. It doesn't need statues or bones, because the bear is in the rhythm, in the pacing loops between pines, in the claw marks on old bark, in the way modern bears scratch trees they don't need to, in the restless dreams before spring, in the urge to move for no reason, in the strange idea that stillness is never quite safe. Odd fact, some bears even today emerge from hibernation early, not because they're hungry, but because something pulls them. A restlessness, a disquiet, a memory of motion they never learned but still feel. You sit in the snow. The cold is soft now. Your body doesn't fight it anymore. You exhale long and slow, and the steam curls up and disappears. This place isn't empty. You've just learned how to listen to it. The pacing bear. The one who refused sleep left no story you can read in books, no drawings in caves, no myth on stone, but it left something bigger, a rhythm, a refusal, a reminder that some creatures face winter not with sleep, but with footsteps. And when you finally stand, it's not to leave. It's just to keep walking. One more echo, one more track, one more memory pressed into snow. The shadow of the ages isn't something you find. It's something that follows you, especially when you walk without sleeping. You walked through the silence of ancient forests, across ash-warmed valleys, past bones and shelters, and the quiet persistence of an animal that refused to hibernate. The bear, massive, unslept, unknowable, taught you more by walking than any myth could by roaring. It fished in steaming winter rivers. It tricked the moonlight. It built dens not to dream but to give birth in frost. And when it finally lay still, it did so, not as a surrender but as a gesture. A choice. A quiet experiment in letting go. And maybe it never meant to wake up. What lingers is not the shape of the bear, but the rhythm it left behind. Pacing patterns in snow. Scratched trees that modern bears still revisit. Instincts that refuse to disappear even when sleep became safe again. You saw echoes of this in the cubs that stirred too early, in the scent maps woven through winter trees, and the way rest itself became dangerous in a world too loud for stillness. The ancient bear didn't survive by sleeping. It survived by walking. By moving between heat and storm, hunger and instinct, learning not to fear winter but to walk with it. And now, as your own steps fade into the dark, you carry that rhythm too. Not a story about a bear, but the rhythm of what remains when the world stops remembering and the body keeps going.